You're listening to Parasearch UK Radio. News, views and reviews from the world of the paranormal from across the UK and beyond. Find us on Facebook, Twitter and the World Wide Web. Parasearch UK Radio.
The views and opinions expressed by presenters and guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of Parasearch UK Radio or its affiliates and sponsors. Listener discretion is advised.
You're listening to The Spirit Dimension with your host, Kerry Greenaway, right here on Parasearch Radio.
Good evening and welcome to Parasearch Radio and the Spirit Dimension. I'm Clare Hinks and I'm your host for this evening. We're doing things a little bit differently this evening. So we have a lovely lady in the studio this evening to join me, and her name is Kerry Greenaway. Good evening, Kerry.
Good evening. How are you?
Oh, I'm very weirded out by this whole thing, really.
This was your idea.
It was my idea. So we're putting Kerry Greenaway, the voice of the Spirit Dimension, on the spot this evening, and I feel completely privileged that you've handed over to me, this complete novice, to take your baby for the evening.
Oh, you're better than you think you are. You're not a novice at all.
Oh, well, thanks. But anyway, let's talk about you. Okay, so we're going to talk about the Kerry Greenaway behind Parasearch Radio and behind the Spirit Dimension, right?
Okay.
We are.
Okay.
So, Kerry Greenaway is amazing, I've heard. And so she's not only the voice of Parasearch Radio, but she's also the owner of Spirit and Soul Island. So you work, Kerry, with your crystals and minerals, bringing them to people at affordable prices and the best service. Is that right?
I try to, yeah. I do. That was when I set up the business. When I was looking at buying crystals and minerals, I'd go to the metaphysical shops and places like that. And so I'm not rich. Do you know what I mean? I'm like a normal, everyday person who struggles most months. And I'd want these pretty things. And how can you justify spending a huge amount of money on a piece when you've got uniforms to buy, or you've got, clubs to pay for and stuff like that. So I sort of, when I first set up the business, I just kind of wanted to be more affordable. I wanted to be able to bring beautiful pieces at great prices. And I know I'm good at customer services. I've been in the customer services field in my normal job, my day job, for like years and years and years. So I just wanted to bring all those factors together. And I kind of that's how I buy when I go out to the wholesalers, or when I'm looking at the mines and stuff like that. That's always forefront in my head. Actually,
I'm glad you came onto that, because I was just going to say to you, where do you hand pick your crystals? I was going to come to that in a minute, but tell us now.
Sometimes I do. Sometimes I actually go out to the wholesalers, which I always have to have quite a lot of money in my pocket, because it's, well, you can imagine, can't you? You go to a wholesaler's and it is, oh my God, fantastic. It is. It's
like Santa's grotto, I can imagine.
Oh, completely. Yeah, for a girl like me, that is like, oh my God, I'm just like, add that to my trolley and add that to my trolley. And then you get to the till and you're like, oh my God. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But, so I sometimes do, sometimes I go to the wholesalers. I do a lot of online shopping as well. But with that, I've managed to get some really good relationships with the people I buy from. So if I want to if I'm buying for a specific person or a piece, can I have a photograph of the piece that I'm looking at? You know, that sort of thing. So that's really handy to do as well. So I buy from all sorts of places. I don't just stick to a wholesaler. And sometimes I look in, all over the place. I've got several wholesalers that I use. There was one wholesaler who unfortunately has gone out of business, which I hated. He was actually in Czechoslovakia. He's gone offline. But he was fantastic. Nothing was ever too much trouble. And I used to get some amazing quality pieces off of him. I look at the mines, all sorts of places I'll look. If I'm looking for a specific piece, I'll go above and beyond, do you know what I mean, to find the right piece for the right person at the right price. You know, I won't just buy the idea,
I was going to ask you, the idea behind Spirit and Soul Island then came from wanting to bring crystals to people at affordable prices. Was that the main reason, or were you drawn to it in another way?
No, the real reason I actually started Spirit and Soul was I was bored. I was so bored with my life. I got to a point in my life where I needed to earn more money. I was doing two jobs at the time anyway, but I needed something that was for me, you know, like a passion for me. And I'd always been into crystals and minerals and spirituality, and I'd done tarot reading for loads and loads of years by that point. And I'd taken the boys out to the Natural History Museum, and my eldest at the time, it's ever so young, doesn't sleep, it still doesn't, it just is a nightmare for that. And he was downstairs with me, and I was trying to settle him down and calm him down, and there was nothing on the television at all that was suitable watching this particular night. And so we were looking online and just picking out like crystals and minerals that we'd seen during the day, and we were talking about that. And literally I did a search, and one of the first things that came up was a crystal and mineral wholesaler. And he was the one that actually said to me, "Mum, have a look. Just have a look." And I realised that I could afford the first, you know, the minimum order charge, as it were.
Yeah.
You know, and I was like, "Oh, okay." And literally, that is sort of where the germ of why don't you start your own business came from.
So the seed was planted.
Yeah, but the laugh of it is, 3 years before that, I'd actually had a tarot reading, and it had been said, the idea, your way forward, this was how it was put, your way forward will come from a small child.
Okay.
And I was
Which it did.
Yeah, right. And it did. So that was where it started from. And then after that, literally the next day, I went round a friend's house. She had just gone out and bought some bits and bobs from a metaphysical shop, and she bought some angel cards. And we were mucking around with these angel cards, and I did a 3-card, just pulled 3 cards. And the first one was crystals, the second one was way forward, and the third one was like go ahead. And I thought, God, that's not a sign. I don't know what it is.
So it's like your sign, yeah, right. It's your sign from Spirit World.
Yeah, okay, maybe I should start paying attention to this. And then, a couple of days after that, I got a cheque through the post from an electricity company. Excuse me. And they'd mucked up people's payments, and they were sending money to everybody at this time. And it was the exact amount of money for the minimum order charge on the wholesalers.
Yeah.
So that's where it
Perfect.
started from.
So it was meant to be, really, wasn't it? It was that was your sign to do it.
If you believe in signs and you're looking for signs,
which we do. Well, I do.
Yeah. Well, of course we do. So if you're looking for a sign, then they couldn't have got much, because they couldn't have slapped me around the face more, could they? Really?
No. So after the sign, tell us a little bit about what you bring to Spirit and Soul Island, because it's not just about supplying crystals and minerals at affordable prices, is it? There's a whole lot more to it than that.
Yeah, I mean, that's where it started, was literally just selling specimens and polished and the crystal and mineral side of it. But then I soon realised that I was starting to get the fact that somebody would go, can I have, I don't know, a labradorite, for example? And I'll be thinking, that's not right. That's not the right crystal. And I couldn't have told you why. Do you know what I mean? It was like, right at the beginning, it was like, really, why? Okay, well, And then I started to talk to the clients and start to talk to people and say, okay, it's a fantastic piece. Just out of curiosity, why? Why do you want that piece? And then I was able to put like the right crystal with the right person. And then I started doing pouch work where I was bringing lots of different crystals and bringing my tarot into that. And then I realised when I was getting the crystals together for the pouch, and that's when I started to work like really intuitively. And that's where I started to really like sort of understand that there was more to this than a pretty rock. You know, that I actually was able to link into those crystals and actually work in a different way with these crystals. And that sort of, at that point, I really started to work like intuitively. And that was a side, I mean, reading tarot, you would, when you read tarot, you learn the meanings of all the cards and you lay them out in a spread. And I was finding with that, I was working more intuitively than going by, well, that card means that and that card means that. I was able to like build that reading, as it were. Anyway, so I kind of realised that all I'd done was sort of shifted my focus and was doing that with crystals without necessarily knowing, because as you know, there's like hundreds and hundreds of different crystals. And it was when I was putting the pouch together and I was then doing the write-up afterwards, I was realising that what I had felt, my impressions and the images and stuff I was been getting whilst I was building the pouch, actually, when I was writing up about individual crystals that are in the pouch, it was like, oh, gosh, you know, that's actually really relevant. And that's when I really started to understand my own... I don't like labelling it because I'm not a medium, I'm not a psychic, I'm not any of those things, and it's really hard to know what to label it. So I just sort of call it intuition. You know what I mean? Like banner it under the intuition sort of thing. So that's
it is intuition, because you're listening to that inner voice and that guidance that says, right, this person, I feel like this person needs this crystal, or this is what this crystal's for. You know, it can help you with your balance. I feel like you're balanced out. So you are working with your intuition. And I'm interested because we were talking about yesterday about being in sync, weren't we?
Oh gosh, yeah,
and,
so much of it around.
And you've done it twice in the time that we've been on air, because I have a massive bit of labradorite right in front of me, and the question that I was going to ask you, one of the first questions I was going to ask you was about the pouches, and you're just instinctively going straight to it. So I'd like to talk. No, it's fine. You're just skipping ahead. Slow down.
Sorry.
No, it's fine. I know, because we want to hear it. We want to hear about the pouches and everything else. So working intuitively, you create a pouch which works specifically for that person's energy signature. Is that right?
Yes.
So you speak to your client and work for them. How, do you do pouches that people can just purchase? Because I've seen those.
Yeah, I would do ones for general use, like anxiety, travelling.
Okay.
You know, like whatever. If you've got a specific issue. And this is the only time I hit on the physical healing. So if somebody came to me and said, I've got this particular condition, I'd like a crystal pouch, then I will research the absolute monkey out of it, do you know what I mean, and create a crystal pouch specifically for that condition. In regards to my intuitive pouches, I don't talk to the client at all. I want to work completely intuitively, because then I know I've not been fed, I suppose, is the expression. People can't go, well, I told her that when we was talking. Do you know what I mean? So all I ask for is a photograph. And then they'll send me a photograph, and I will look at the photograph. Then I'll go into the crystal room, and I will basically scan through my tumbles with my hand. I always sound like it always feels a little bit crazy when you say how I work. And literally, I'll get a tingle. If it's right, I'll get a tingle. So I'll pull out the ones that I get a hit from, and then that's when the images and the impressions start coming through. So I'll be writing down what I'm getting whilst I'm pulling the pouch together, and then I'll end up with generally around 7. It always ends up around 7. Sometimes I've had a little bit more, but 7 seems to be the right balance. And then I'll check that by asking the pendulum, is this the right balance for this person? Yeah, and then I will sit down, and that's when I start going, okay, they'll go into a pouch, they'll sit on a quartz. I've got a beautiful quartz slab that I use that sits in front of me, and then I'll sit down and start doing the writing up, and then they'll get the images and impressions that I get whilst working the pouch. I'll write all that up. Then they'll get all the meanings of the different crystals, so they'll get the breakdown of what each crystal is and what it does. And then they'll get a 3-card tarot read with that, as well as an angel card guidance as well. And they get all that in a sheet, and then that's my intuitive pouch. And then literally, when I started doing those for people, I was blown away, absolutely blown away. That was, oh my God, it's just perfect. You know what I mean? It just, I can't tell you how, and I get repeats as well. Like somebody would have had one like a year or two ago, and then they'll come back, I think I need a new one. You know, I think I need a new one. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. You know, and I'll do another one for them. Or they'll come back and say, can I just have a tarot reading? Which is why I've put tarot readings now as a service out there. And I've started doing online tarots as well now. And that sort of thing. And I love doing them. I really enjoy doing that. They take a lot of time.
And it's a service that you've made. It's very specific and very unique, isn't it, to Spirit and Soul Island?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
All my intuitive work is unique. I mean, like, I do rosaries as well. I make rosaries for people, pagan rosaries. They're not... If you want to look into the meaning of rosary, you can pull it apart and go, it's not a rosary. But it's the best word to describe what it is. Do you know what I mean? And that's real crystal beads, and you incorporate into that the symbols and symbology and stuff with the charms. And so I do something similar with those, which is always very interesting to do. I sometimes pull Kerry in to help me on that one, because she's more of a medium, particularly if I do one that's to do with past life or something like that. So she's really, really good at that. So she sometimes comes along and helps me with that one. And I tend not to do those. But, yeah, you know, and then I do the wax. All of those are all intuitively worked. They're all worked in a way, how does it feel? If it doesn't feel right, it doesn't get made. And
you were going to say about the wax melts then, weren't you?
Yeah.
Were you going to say, yeah, because I was looking at those and they look lovely. So tell me about them for a minute. Tell me about the wax melts. So we burn them.
Yeah, you put them into like a wax burner. Well, I started off by making where the idea for that came from was putting crystals and because I did a herbology course to bring in herbs into it as well. I went through a phase where all of a sudden I had to have a herb for a pouch, and I was like, oh gosh, this is a whole new world. And when I started working my own personal rituals, they become quite important. You know, incenses and herbs become quite important. So I did a herbology course because I didn't know anything about that at all. And it was only one of those online ones, but it gave me a good grounding, a good understanding of it all. And so I started making my own ritual candles with crystals in there and, you know, the right herbs and stuff like that. And then I did a house clearance, and I took one of these candles with me to help with that ritual that I was going to do in this house. And and basically it was just like, oh, you've got to do more of these. The smell is just awesome. And I was like, really? And I was like, oh, okay. And then I thought, the trouble is, any new product you bring, there's always that cost factor to set up cost factor.
Yeah.
And there's your problem when you've got a business head and you've got a work intuitively head. You have to sort of balance the cost factor sometimes. So I wasn't selling huge amounts of them to warrant that investment, I suppose you would call it. And so I thought, right, well, I could still do the same thing, but just do it as a wax melt.
Yes.
And everybody has, like, you know, there's loads of these candle wax melt burners around. And, you know, I've used the generic ones you can buy in the shop myself. And I thought, actually, if I could do it in that, then that fulfills the need in that particular ritual rather than having a whole candle. You know what I mean? You can use these wax melts for that. And then the idea after that is once you've done your ritual and it's all gone back to hard, you can pop it out and then bury it. And it fulfills that end ritual piece as well, rather than, oh, I've now got the candle holder. What do I do with that? I can't bury that. You know what I mean? So it actually fitted better with the work that they were intended for. So that's what the wax melts were about.
Well, just check out Kerry's Spirit and Soul Island, guys. Check out the website, because I'm just having a little look, a little browse, doing a little bit of shopping while we're chatting. 'Cause the wax melts are a bargain, and they look beautiful, and they are, and also while we're on the handcrafted, so you're talking about the wax melts and stuff. You've got some amazing things. I'm looking at the flowing energy pendant. That looks amazing. And you produce these yourself? You make them yourself? They're all handcrafted?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I do a lot of.
So where do you get inspiration? Stuff. What inspires you? Talk to me about your inspiration? The person. Yeah, I made a chakra wand recently, didn't I, for a client? Lovely girl, and she said, I want a chakra wand, and I was like, okay. Well, I can make that, And she was like, oh, go for it. And then I will literally just start thinking about that person and what I'm making, and then it will come. I'm not the best crafter in the world. There are some amazing crafters out there. But because it's intuitively done, I get so frustrated sometimes because I want to... I can't do faces very well. I'd just like to point out... I'm not very good with faces at all. But, I'm having to do these things because that's how it feels. That's the way it works. And, so when I'm working intuitively, it is purely specifically for that person. How does it feel for that person? Can I just interrupt you just briefly? If I ordered from your website a flowing energy pendant, would I get the one that I see in the picture? Or...
All the pieces on the website are what you see is what you get.
Yeah.
Any intuitive work you want me to do, you have to message me.
Yeah.
Because otherwise...
It's about making contact.
Yeah.
And working from there.
Yeah.
Excuse me. Cool. Wow. See, the real Kerry Greenaway, so much hidden. So something else that I'm really interested in is your smudge fans as well.
Yeah.
Do you make them yourself?
Yeah.
How amazing.
Thank you.
Get a smudge fan, guys.
I think I've only got a mini one left at the moment. I think all the others have gone at this moment in time. So I've got to sit down and start doing some more creating work. But finding time is a little stretched at the moment. But I do sit down, and what I tend to do of a weekend is I do work days. And... we'll sit down and whatever projects I've got on the go at the moment, whether that be the paranormal side or whether that be writing a blog, doing, making creativity. I mean, the amount of times that I'll have people messaging me and I'm going, I can't talk, my hands are full of clay. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I just can't.
Because you have to put a certain amount of time to it, don't you? It's so difficult when you're living in the real world, and you have your muggle job and kids and, everything else that's going on. You have to allocate a set amount of time to working.
Oh, yeah. Very much so.
Yeah.
It's not, and these pieces are not 5-minute pieces. Anybody who crafts will tell you the amount of time. And sometimes I'll create something and then sit there, look at it and go, no, it's not right. It's not that's not right. And I'll screw it up and start again. It will get taken to pieces and I'll start again.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't feel right. And I mean, one crystal picture grid I did for a lady. She ordered it, ages and ages ago. It was for a dragon. She wanted very specific dragon energy. And this took absolutely ages. And I just couldn't find the right piece. I knew it needed something, and I knew which crystals needed to go in it, and I knew the symbols that were going to be used, and I knew the culling backing, and I knew all that. But I knew it was missing something. Anyway, I've got another lady that I work quite closely with for my own spiritual journey called Marlena, who does the talismans for me, that I help try and promote her a little bit. And she came round and she works very shamanic way. So quite often she'll see like roadkill or something and she'll take it home and get bones and stuff out of it. And she came round and she was
it sounds a bit gory.
It does sound great. It's not as bad as it sounds. It always sounds worse than it is. And she had this bone, and it was like the actual piece was actually part of the backbone from a bird. But when I looked at it in my hand, it looked like a skull of a dragon.
Okay.
And I
Took on a completely different form.
It certainly did. And I just looked at it and I went, I need that piece. Can I have that? And she was like, oh, God, yeah. And it went into the centre of this crystal picture grid. And the girl was just absolutely blown away.
Well, that's so good.
Yeah, absolutely blown away by it. And and that took probably a good 6 months to evolve, that picture grid. And that's
so these things don't happen quick. They don't happen overnight, do they?
No,
it
sometimes
takes time.
they do. Sometimes they can be a really quick thing, and I'll get that inspiration and that energy work. That energy will come through straight away. And other times it'll evolve over time. I'm working on a St. Michael's picture grid at the moment for a fantastic lady. And I kind of know where I want to go with it, but again, it's taken its time to evolve. And she's been waiting a little while for that. But that's the problem with intuitive work. People go, oh, I want that piece and I want it tomorrow. And you're like, it doesn't always work that way. Sometimes you'll need a specific crystal and you can't find the right size pieces on the market, so you're waiting for the market to evolve or come up. But it will always come up at the right time, at the right place. That's the other
these
thing
things crop up. They crop up when they're supposed to.
When they're supposed to, yeah, very much so. So the intuitive work, the pouches not so much. I can do those because I always have a huge stock of tumble stones. I like to have a huge range of tumble stones. So they're quite, quick.
Yeah,
it's just a question of.
So can I just? Okay, so there's probably most of the people listening have an idea of what to do with tumble stones, but for those of us that don't, tell me why do I need tumble stones?
Tumble stones are great for day-to-day use. If you want to have one in your pocket, if you want to have 2 or 3 different crystals. I mean, you imagine carrying a great big lump of amethyst around with you in your pocket.
Yes, actually, yes.
I think we've all done that.
I can't go on holiday without lumps of rock.
Honestly, my parents are like, what's in this bag? And I'm like, that's my crystal bag.
Yeah. Pack the kids off for a weekend away and go deliver all your crystals as well.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, it's like, how many suitcases do you need? There's only 3 of you. You've got 14. We're going for a week. Well, that one's my laptop. That's my books. That's my crystal bag.
Yeah.
That's my this, And it's like, oh my God, you take more stuff than the kids do.
Totally know what you're saying. Relate completely.
To the point that this year when we go on holiday, he's told me to go on the train so he can get all my stuff in the car. And that's a true, trust me, that's a true story, everybody.
That's so funny.
So yeah.
Okay, so back to tumble stones.
Yeah.
So basically they're a smaller version.
Yeah.
That are easier to more manageable in day to day then.
Yeah, on a day-to-day front, they're great. They're great in crystal grids because you'll have your main piece in the centre and your points coming off. So they're great to bring in the other energies that you need in without having to worry about clusters or big pieces. You can use them as tumble stones to build the energy level up. You can put 2 or 3 of them together, so it works really well in regards to melding crystal energy to get a better effect, sometimes for a specific point that you're trying to work with. Tumble stones are so versatile. So versatile.
Brings me to the next question. Next question. Crystal grids. So you've mentioned crystal gridding quite a bit. So tell me, how do you work with crystal grids? Do you? I can hear my echo, and it's really off-putting. So sorry if I keep repeating myself. Talk to us about the full moon guidance that you give, because on your blog that you write, and on the Spirit and Soul Island, I see that you post the full moon and guidance grid, and you do a guidance grid, don't you, in a stone at the beginning of every month? Yeah,
I do a crystal of the month, and then I do the full moon guidance. At the moment, they're like quite close together. They're like syncing together, but they're 2 different things. So you've got crystal of the month is basically what I'll do is I've got a crystal tarot deck, and I'll pull a card, and sometimes I have to re-pull the card because I go, no, that doesn't feel right. What are you doing? What are you doing, deck? Come on, that's not the right crystal. And I will do a write-up of what the energy forecast is for that month. Again, all intuitively done. I don't read anybody else's blogs. I work intuitively with that. In fact, I make a point of not reading anybody else's blogs. And then once I've done mine, I will then go and read other and think, oh, that's actually really quite resonating with what other people are picking up too. So that's quite nice. That's quite nice. Verifying. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that the word?
Yeah.
And then the crystal of the month will be something that you could use throughout the month to help you through that energy of the month, you know. So that's that. And it will give you like more the geological. I like to go into a little bit more of the geology of it, of that particular crystal of the month. And then I'll do a spiritual side of what that crystal means and the uses of that. Whereas the full moon guidance, if I'm going to do any manifestation work, I will always tend to work with full moon energy. I'm more of a moon night girl than I am solar day girl.
Okay.
Yeah. Different people will find, like some people work better in the day. I mean, I read something from Cheryl McGregor the other day, and she was saying she's a solar girl. She'll do a lot of her work in the daytime, and because she resonates with solar energy more than lunar, whereas I'm more of a moon girl. Yeah. I love my full moon, but then I work better at night because everything's quiet, you know. Everything sort of settles down, and quite often 1, 2 in the morning I'll be sitting there, and that's when I'll do my crystal work, or that's when I'll do my gridding and stuff like that. And in the summer I don't sleep an awful lot, so I'm not saying this is for everybody, but I'll be quite often out in the crystal room, headphones on, listening to some music while I'm working away out there. And so on a full moon, if I'm going to do any manifestation work, then that's when I'll do it. If I'm going to do any ritual work, for intention work, that's generally when I'll do it. And I set that night. I do tend to set that full moon night as my night. That's my working night. Things I do for myself, for specific things that I do for myself. But what I like to do the full moon guidance and grid. So I'll evolve a grid. I'll pull 3 tarot cards out, which will basically give me the base crystals for the grid. And then I will make a grid around that. And then do just like a general guidance reading for everybody for that full moon. And then I will make a grid that fits with that energy signature. And I will burn incense and send out lovely thoughts for everybody. And again, I'll do that right up. And I've actually added in this year, this is a new thing, the evolution of the grid, because crystal gridding is one of those terms that everyone goes, they've heard it, but they don't get it. So a lot of people go, I won't do a crystal grid. Why not? Because we haven't got that many crystals. Well, actually, you've probably got like 1 million crystals around your house if you're into crystals. You just don't know how to use them properly. Or, I go around, how many clients I've popped around their house because they've gone, could you come around and sort my house out, my crystals out around my house? And they've got like a great big dish full of tumblestones. I go, are you using these? And they'll go, well, no, I just kind of I go to a fair and I'll buy a couple of tumbles and I'll shove them in the bowl and that'll be that. And I'll be like, okay, why are you not using them? Why not? Why are you not using them? And, talking through that sort of thing. So when I started putting the evolution of the grid on the bottom, like in this blog thing that I do, it was to try and explain to people that how that grid evolved and why I used that colour and why I went for maybe a different crystal in there than the one that the 3 cards have told me, why.
And that's part of your intuition.
Exactly, it all comes intuitive. Sometimes it's very difficult to go, well, why did I choose that? I've now got to question my own intuition and actually put that out there as a thing, actually write it down. And sometimes I find that quite difficult sometimes. I'm not a natural writer, and it's getting easier the more I do it. But to sit and, okay, so why do I do that? Why did I think that? Why was that symbol the right symbol at that particular point in time? Again, I'll research that. I mean, I'm not an oracle. I haven't got this knowledge just downloaded into my brain. I do a lot of work on the research front with the crystals and minerals as much as I do for the paranormal side as well. So, you know what it's like, Claire, when someone says, "How did you know that?" How did you know that?
I don't know.
I just know. You know what I mean? It's like, how do I know that? I don't know. How do I know that? So sometimes when someone says that, you go, yes, okay, so where did that thought pattern go from that? Where did I get that from? You know? So I'm having to do that more now, particularly when I'm writing up the evolution of the grid. But people seem to like it, the full moon grid guidance and that, so I'll keep going with that.
Yeah. So now listen, you go to fairs and things with your crystals, is that right?
Yeah, not many. I don't do loads.
No, but do you do a little bit of teaching as well?
I do.
Because there is a question in the chat room for you. Does Kerry enjoy teaching others about crystals as well as selling them?
I prefer I do. Teaching, I wouldn't necessarily class myself as a teacher, but guiding people in the right way with the crystals is something I'm really quite passionate about, because 9 times out of 10 somebody will have the right crystal and they just don't even realise they've got the right crystal, particularly if you're in the crystal world. You know, if I'm at a fair, there's a lot of talking, believe it or not. I will talk, and
you don't talk a lot, do you?
I know it's hard to imagine. But yeah, I do. I do an awful lot of talking.
Yeah,
like talking.
Keep going, you're doing great. Keep talking.
But yeah, that's one thing I don't like about fairs, actually, is sometimes not getting the time. If it's a really busy fair and you've got, like, I always end up with 2 tables. I don't have just one. I have to have a 2-table spread because of the amount of stuff I've got. And getting to the the point of what that person needs, do you know what I mean? Is like, that's where, so why do you need it? You know, so that's where my inquisitive comes in, and guiding them to the right thing and saying, well, why have you got that crystal at my front door? I'll get negative energies coming into my house all the time. Why is that happening? Okay, so have you got any crystals at your front door? Yes, I've got selenite. Okay, well, why would you put selenite at your front door? You know what I mean? It's not the right crystal at the front door. And actually finding out about how they work and who they are and what they're trying to achieve. And it's always that why. And I don't always get the time at look, I'm reading the chat room.
You're reading sometimes it's really distracting, isn't it?
Particularly as all, I know everybody in the chat room, and they're all going, me talk, never. It's oh god, where I've lost my thread now. Teaching, and I do like a mini workshop if I, for the person who's running the fair, if they want me to do one, they'll ask me, and that any money raised from that always goes into the charity pot, because I'm earning money off my stall, so that's sort of like a free sort of thing I do of MBS. But I don't do many MBSs. I stay very local with those, and I don't like them because I much prefer a one-on-one. I love you too, Carly. I much prefer a one-on-one because I can really get the whole point of that person's journey in regards to their crystal work, rather than 1,000 people come at you and they're like, I want that piece, and you're trying to serve and you're trying to talk to that person, and it can be very distracting and not get down to the nitty gritty of what that person needs, particularly if they're after something specific.
So really, your work is much more, you prefer it to be much more personal. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you get so much more out of it.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons why I launched the one-on-one crystal coaching, was because, again, like, the amount of times people, they read the blogs, they read the articles online, but when you actually start talking to them, they're still a little confused as to what to do with their crystals, even down to basics like cleansing and charging. What should I use for this? Where should that go in my house? Protection, I'm going out, I need protection, I want this, what do I do in this situation? Smuggling, all those kind of factors.
With the crystal coaching, I feel like I need to put my hand up. Excuse me.
Sorry.
I
don't like talking.
No, it's fine. You're fine. So with the crystal coaching, shush, I'll lose my thread.
Sorry.
So with the crystal coaching, is that something that you can do, like, long distance?
Yeah,
or is that a one-to-one thing?
It's a one-to-one.
like face to face, or can you do it?
I can do that
from a distance.
Oh god, yeah, I can do it via Skype.
Okay.
It's a one-on-one via Skype, or a phone call. If it's that long distance, Skype's better because we don't pay for that.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, I can do it that way, or that's how that's done. And that came out of basically people would start talking to me at a fair and then say, God, I'd like to spend more time with you. And I'd be like, yep, no problem. And I'd book a segment of time in for them to come round in the crystal room, of course, and would sit there and they'd really start going, okay, so this is where I'm at, this is what I've got. And half the time it ended up, it wasn't a sell. The one-on-one coaching is not a sell. It's not me going, well, you need this crystal and you need that crystal. You know what I mean? It's not about selling. It's about being able to show you to utilise what you've got in the best way possible. And if you have got gaps in your collection, then fine. I'm not saying you have to buy them from me, but you know, this is what you're going to need for that. Crystal gridding, talking them through how to crystal grid, you know, any concept for that. And also I found from that has led on to things like meditation, and we've talked about this, like your own spiritual journey in regards to that.
And I have to
touch
say,
on crystals really.
I have to say, I've had some one-on-one coaching from Kerry, and she's got your intuition's amazing. You know, you pick up on things, and you've given me guidance in areas where I, you know, didn't understand the energy that was going on around me and needed some serious guidance and help with understanding it myself. And you know, I totally recommend her. Get some one-to-one coaching from Kerry because she's amazing.
Thank you.
Frankly.
Thank you.
So we're talking about your spiritual work now. We've kind of moved, haven't we, from Spirit and Soul Island onto more spiritual work. So you do a bit of paranormal investigating, don't you?
Yeah.
So using your spiritual side then and your intuition, how do you work on a paranormal investigation? What kind of thing? Because like for me, pretty straightforward. I'm the medium, so you know, I go in and see what I can pick up and relay any information that I hear, etc. What do you find yourself doing at a paranormal investigation?
Okay, so if I'm out with a team, then you'll find me walking around a lot, and I'll have my hands out, and I'm feeling an energy scanning. That's the only way I can describe it, is energy scanning. And what I will do is feel energy fluctuations. Yeah, and this isn't something necessarily you could record on the EMF meter or something like that. But when I'm working, and then I'll know where to put crystal grid. It's so difficult to explain it because I will walk around and the first thing I do, I literally dump my kit and then I'm off. I want to be out in that location before anything is set. You know, before anybody's like run around with their baseline tests and all that. I'm literally walking around and everyone's like, well, where's Kerry gone? And I'm like 3 miles away up the top in a fault, or, you know, looking into all the little crannies and feeling the energy and, you know, seeing where the land lies with that. Yes, Carly, it's so hard to explain. And Carly, I've been out with Carly on an investigation. We had a really small team at one point. I was part of that with Carly. And everyone would be like, where is she?
So you said before when you were talking about selecting stones for your pouches that you would get a tingle in your hand, that you felt. Is that what that's like when you go on an investigation? You're feeling, you had your hand out and you're feeling for the energy.
Yes, very much so. And that.
So you know, I walk through this area and you feel like the energy thickens or it changes in the corner of this room, or
yeah, very much so. Very much so. And then I'll go, right, okay, so I'll need a crystal grid here or a crystal grid there, or actually what I wanted to do, when we did Fort Readout, I did one right in the centre because it was circular. It was fantastic because it was circular. It was like, oh my God, this is just perfect. I did one right in the middle and then did grids off of that in the location. And then because it was like the centre's actually outside, I was then able to like incorporate things like I burnt some incense, did a little ritual thing, and, you know, stuff like that. And those little things were just great for me. Can't always use the incense to do the ritual thing because obviously locations are a bit, if they're indoors, you can't. You know what I mean? You have to be, you have to be careful.
So that, do you know what I've done? I mean, I've been on not that many, but a few investigations. but I've never seen anybody gridding on a paranormal investigation. Because, you know, it kind of, if you think about crystal grid and you're thinking maybe somebody in their front room doing their grid, you know, not like in a dark, wet, spooky night in some creepy barn somewhere.
I don't ever feel that. Whenever I go to a location, I've never walked in and gone, oh my God. You know what I mean? I don't like this place.
Yeah.
I've never ever felt that. I felt wary in one, but that was because of the energy signature. Carly was there on that one too. That was because of the energy that was in there. I felt wary, but not scared. That's one thing I've not actually felt yet on an investigation, is scared.
No.
Not walking into a location anyway. I've walked off the back of a location feeling a little scared.
Yeah, likewise.
But not actually walking into it and then doing that initial energy scan, you know.
Tell me how does a grid work on a paranormal investigation? I don't, explain it to me, because, you know, does it change the energy, or what happens?
The point of it is when you do a crystal grid, you set it to a specific intention, and what you're trying to do is shorten the distance. So it's basically helping spirit use crystal energy to actually help, like either manifest or communicate. So it's hopefully bringing a bridge between the spiritual and the physical, you know, and trying to give them more energy in the location. So if they're not particularly strong as a spirit, that's the theory. Is the theory.
Yeah.
You know,
so it would enable them to make an easier connection.
Exactly.
So to bridge the gap, to help bridge the gap.
Yeah, to bridge the gap. And you're setting the grid to that specific intention of bringing that energy into the physical. You know, so you're creating that energy. So you're putting out the energy of the crystals, but also bringing the actual energy of the location all together, so it becomes an easier medium, I suppose you want to call it, for the spirits to help interact with. And then hopefully we then us guys out there investigating, can capture something or build up data, or, you know, do something that helps us understand what's going on in that particular location. I mean, we did, going back to Fort Redoubt, we did 2 investigations there. We did one with crystals, one without crystals. The night we did the one with crystals was really quite active. We had a really good night that night. And the one we did without crystals, which was part of an experiment that we actually said we'll try it without crystals to see if it made a difference. You get quiet nights on investigations. It's not a scientific thing at all, but yeah, it was a lot quieter when I didn't do any work at all.
It's interesting.
It is, but I can't say that was my effect. I can't sit here and say that because I've got nothing to back that up with. I can't prove it. I can't prove any of this. It's a theory that I'm working on. It's an idea that I've got. I've had it from the very beginning when I started investigating. That's evolved. I now know a little more of what I need to try and work on and understand, to try and explain. But you can imagine I'm dealing with like geology, and I'm trying to deal with
but none of it is an exact science.
Like no, it's not. And
there's somebody in the chat room, Ashley will know, you know, Ashley will agree, it's not an exact science, is it? None of it, you know. No, but there was a definite difference. It felt very different. But again, you have to be logical about it. You get good nights, you get bad nights. Was it the crystals? Yeah, quite.
Or was it just the fact that we had a quiet night that night? I don't know. But it was very interesting, the difference in the 2 nights that we had with the same team, working in the same way. The only difference was one night we used crystals and one night we didn't use crystals. And that was interesting. Yeah, so it's an ongoing research and you know, trials, and you know, trying to work out. I mean, and I won't use the same crystals on every location as well. So what I've actually had to do pre-investigation is actually look at the location, not the history, but just look at pictures of the location and try and sort of tune in a little bit to try and work out what I need to take in regards to crystals.
Can I just ask you a question? How long have you been working in the spiritual field? How many years have you been doing your tarot and your crystals? And, you know, how long would you say you've been involved?
Well, tarot reading I've been reading now for... goodness, going to show my age. Probably about 30 years.
I'm not trying to give your age away. I was just trying to establish that that you've got lots of knowledge.
Well, tarot reading I've been reading for about 30 years. And crystal work, I've only actually started working intuitively, and you lot are going to be so shocked at this, for 4 to 5 years.
But that's what happens, isn't it? When you get drawn to an area... And you know, obviously you've got really good feedback from your crystal stuff, your intuition and your guidance that you're giving out to people. So there's obviously, you know, you're drawn to do that, and they're drawing you in, aren't they?
Oh gosh,
they're giving it to you. They're laying it out there for you.
Oh yeah.
And by they, I mean the spirit world.
Yeah. Oh well, obviously, yeah, because they're pushing me down that pathway.
Just in case people are wondering who they might be.
Yeah, the spirit world. Yeah, and investigating I've only been doing for 3.
Okay.
Believe it or not. Sounds like I've been doing it for years, doesn't it? But I've only been doing it for 3.
It does, but you see what, you know, this is you. You have lots to give, Kerry. Lots to give. This was the point of our role swap this evening, to give people an idea of just how much knowledge that you actually have, and you know what you're actually capable of, because we all hear you as being the voice of the spirit dimension and, you know, Parasearch Radio, but there's so much more to you. And I've learnt one thing, is that everybody has a story to tell. You know, everybody is interested in everybody's story. It's so important. And so this is good. So the other thing I want to talk to you about is your writing. You've already touched on your blog, but you do a little bit of writing for an online magazine. Is that right?
Oh, Spooky Isles, yeah. Oh, bless
Spooky
him.
Isles.
Yeah, it's called Spooky Isles. And he asked me to, David Saunderson asked me to like write some articles. And so I started doing that. I mean, bless him. Oh, God, I'm so overdue on another article. It's untrue. He's so patient with me. And I just haven't really had the time to sit down and write another article recently. But, yeah, I started writing that. That was strange, writing an article, but I have an amazing proofwriter who is used to writing articles. So I always send it to my proofreader first, who says, okay, so what was you trying to say in that sentence? And he'll make it sound a lot more better than it probably was.
Legible?
Yeah, more legible than it probably initially came. I mean,
so
yeah.
do they give you a topic to write about, or do you just choose something that interests you? Or
no, sometimes he'll send me a message and say, can you write, you know, look at this for me and see what you come up with. The latest one was something called a call bearer, which I'd never heard the term before. So that's something that I've still got to do. That's the article that is really overdue at the moment. But no, he just sort of said, just do what you want, basically. Right.
So, because I've been having a little read. It's amazing, isn't it? What you find out about a person. So I was reading one of the articles that you wrote about scrying, which has taken me a while to get my head. I mean, I obviously understand scrying now, but for those of us that don't, tell us about scrying. And how do you know this stuff? Is it things that is this a topic that you've had to research yourself, or have you had personal experience of scrying?
Gosh, where do I start with that one? When I write about something, I will always start with my personal experience. I'm completely self-taught in regards to my spiritual work and my crystal work. I'm completely self-taught. I've not been part of a coven or, you know, circles. I've not done any of that. So I'm completely self-taught. And I just class myself as solitary. I don't work great in groups. I'm far too controlling. So I'll always start with my personal experience. So how do I do it? You know, and then I will go, and research it. And that's where I'll get that information from. So scrying was quite interesting in regard to, that focus. It's that focus and that intention work. And every single time, it always goes back to your intention when you're doing any kind of intuitive or tuned in or channeled work. It's all about your focus and your intention, and that is where a lot of people go wrong. And actually, this has been a little bit of a bugbear of mine recently, about people talking the talk but not walking the walk. People use these concepts like house smudging. That was a real big bugbear for me, and that came off the back of a MBS fair where somebody was talking about it. I was thinking, no, that's not right. Why are you doing it like that? You're not going to get any difference in your house at all if you do it that way. So I wrote about smudging, because it just becomes a bit of a bugbear. People walk, I say they're not walking the walk. They'll know the concepts, they'll understand the concepts, but when they actually come to sit and do it, when I work a ritual, I will be dripping in sweat. Do you know what I mean? The focus, the intention, the concentration that goes into that, the pre-work that's gone into that. And I'm not talking about like a little fluffy ritual that, that goes on. I do those as well. But if I'm doing a full-blown intention work, powerful stuff, you know what I mean? With proper salt circles and all that going on. By the end of that, I will be literally drained and dripping in sweat because of the concentration level that's taken. And that's what's needed. The people understanding the intention, focus and concentration is what's really key with any form of intuitive work. That is the key point. You don't need the tools. Much as I love my crystals and minerals and I always need a tool personally, you don't need that. No. Because if you've got that focus, that intention and that, that concentration in place, and you can use your energy to lift up into the third eye realm and stuff like that, you'll be surprised at what you're picking up regardless of the tool you're using.
Yeah, that's true. It's having somewhere to put your hands, isn't it? In a way, having a tool, having a physical tool is to try and focus your energy into, for instance, a crystal, to focus your energy into that, or to direct it just to your third eye and use it that way. Like you've said, I mean, that's much more, I don't know, I was going to say independent, but I don't know if that's the right word really, but you know what I mean. So when you write, then going back to the spooky hours, when you write an article, you're whatever the topic is, you're basing a lot of what you write on personal experience. Then you're lost my train of thought.
Then
see,
I'll
that
research it.
I'm getting old. I'm sorry. So you're basing it on, but it's about giving people the right way, isn't it, of doing something. Like you're saying about saging the house, or cleansing the house and doing it the right way. So it's making sure that you give people the right advice, really.
I find that quite important. And for me, but somebody could read my article and go, it don't work for me doing it that way. And that's the other thing, it's allowing people to, I say I'm completely solitary. I've not had guidance. I've literally gone away, and I've probably got my way of working is just read from lots and lots of different people. So it's probably like a milk pot of lots of different things. And that, in amongst all that, I then found my own way of doing it, what was right for me, what was right for my way of working, my intuition. Of how it felt right for me. And that's the other thing I would say. If it feels right for you, go with it. If it works for you, go with it. Who am I to say it's wrong? I'm not. But if you're asking me how to do it or how I do it, that's where I'll come from. And,
So it's been awesome. We're nearly at the end of the show, Kerry.
I told you it'd fly by.
So before we go, quickly, before I hand back over to you to do all the what's coming up stuff, just really quickly, you're doing a couple of things that are a bit new for you this year, aren't you? You're speaking at a couple of events.
Yeah.
So one of those is the Paranormal Parafest, is that right?
Yeah, paranormal. Living Paranormal magazine,
Parafest,
and that's perfect. That's at Rotham Tower this year. We're the official radio for that, and I'm also speaking there as well.
That's awesome.
The nervous laugh. There's nervous laugh when I'm actually speaking at these things. That's an amazing opportunity. So yeah, I'm doing that one. And I'm also speaking at Paraforce this year. I'm a guest speaker there this year. No radio there though. And then I'm the official radio station for Sage Paracon as well this year.
Awesome.
So it's awesome.
It is awesome. So we've got exciting things coming up. And I would just like to take this opportunity to say thank you so much for handing your baby to me for the evening. I hope I've done it justice.
Oh, you've done an amazing job, yeah.
You've done an amazing job. And I just encourage everybody to check out Kerry Greenaway's Spirit and Soul Island crystals. Get in touch with her, talk to her if you've got any questions about crystal gridding or tarot, want a tarot reading or anything. Get in touch with her, and I'll hand you over. And thank you very much. Back to you, Kerry.
Well done. A little round of applause for Claire. She's done an amazing job tonight. Okay, guys, we have a competition running at this moment in time over on the Parasearch Radio group page on Facebook. It's 2 tickets for the 17th of March at Fort Horsted. That has been donated to us by Fright Nights London, so a big thank you to Fright Nights London. You have to be able to attend the event on the night if you want to enter. Go over there. All the details for the competition are on the group page, the terms and conditions, what you need to do. But definitely do that. That is the draw is on the 14th at 9 p.m. on the Haunted History Show. So that's happening this week. So if you want to go, or if you can get there on the 17th, then I suggest you get into that competition really quickly. Tomorrow, Monday, I will be going live on the Parasearch Radio group page, telling you all about the shows that are coming up over the next week. Just to give you a little hint, we've got the Parafest special. We've got Lee Roberts in the studio. We're talking provocation in the paranormal. We've even got a ufology show this week on the Phoenix Lights. I don't know who came up with that idea, Mark Manley, just saying. And next Sunday on the Spirit Dimension, Claire and I have got a most amazing lady in the studio with us. Her name is Heather Prince, and she works with past life and Akashic records. That is going to be an absolutely fascinating topic.
I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, it's going to be really good. And on that note, thank you so much for interviewing me, Claire.
It's so weird. It's the wrong way round. Oh, well, thanks for letting me. I've learnt loads from you, and you're amazing, Kerry.
I think you're pretty amazing too, Claire. A little love fest to finish off.
Feeling the love in the room.
A little love fest carrying on. Happy Mother's Day to everybody out there.
Just going to say that.
Yeah, even if you're not a mum, if you're a fur baby mum or whatever you are, women everywhere, happy Mother's Day. And on that note, we both bid you even.
We do. Good night.
A very good night. Take care.
Thank you for listening. Don't forget to join us for more shows throughout the week. Find us on Facebook, Twitter, and the World Wide Web to keep up to date with all the shows right here on Parasearch Radio.